because in early conversations with the indigenous people, indigenous to where I come from, San Bernardino, the Yubian was letting them know about our independence movement and asking what they thought because, before us came them, obviously. Is no, we don't want this. We don't want no part of this. You're gonna take what we've fought and won for our treaty rights, and you're gonna flush it down the toilet anyway. Okay. And so this forced us to rethink our whole project. We started to do that, and we came up with a response to their criticism, which we call Return California. And we proposed that the federal land be returned to them. Okay, and we were working on that, so we consulted with some of them as we were working on that, and they almost verbatim voiced a concern that I had when I looked at it at that stage. I says, it looks like we're trying to divide California into a settler Israel and an indigenous Palestine. And it looked like that to them too. And they says, we're not going to talk to you until you get rid of that map. So we talked to indigenous people that we engaged in Return California, and we had our first listening session. One indigenous nation hosted it. Representatives of that indigenous nation hosted it. Other representatives of other indigenous nations came there, and they were speaking. We were listening. Okay, and then afterwards they asked us what we thought, and so we let them know what we thought. And so we're doing it again. But we've been totally forced by the indigenous nations. Their criticisms helped us so much to understand the problem in depth from their perspective.
Right.
Okay, and that is why it's integral to our reintegration of California to come up with a plurinational solution, which we have some experience with. Okay, it's interesting because the MARS and Morales and all that, they wanted to do the same thing, and for years they did, as they understood it. Who else better than the indigenous Bolivians? But decades before that, we had a plurinationally governed pair of cities. Okay, Palm Springs and Cathedral City. If you look at the map, half of it is the Agua Caliente Reservation, or the Agua Caliente Band, the Cahuilla. Okay, so we have concrete experience before the theory was even thumbed up. Okay, of polynational governance, and it works. Okay, so what we're saying, if it worked for Palm Springs and Cathedral City and the Agua Caliente Reservation, why not our country? Okay, a plurinational republic, plurinational government, a federal republic that recognizes and, as a basis, the prior sovereignty of the indigenous nations. That's what we're looking at, because it is very complex. Okay. We need to take that, like you say, complexity into account.
I've run a radio show for about 25 years, and it's a call-in show, and I just pick up the telephone and engage in the conversation without the person even needing to identify who they are or anything like that. And I'm convinced that conversation is the most important aspect of decolonizing the mind. The process of colonization took many, many years. And to believe that by placing a good idea before a people will turn them over immediately is a fantasy. But I found that the conversation, the engagement, and the treatment of the conversation, the respect of the conversation itself, is the best thing to move people to open their minds and to consider these questions. Remember that this is not a legalistic argument. This is not a rational argument. One person, when I was elected to this trusteeship with the Office of Hawaiian Affairs. So I represented the island of Oahu. And I used to argue and argue and argue about independence for Hawaii and the illegalities. In fact, when they swore me in, I refused to stand and pledge allegiance and to accept that I would support and defend the Constitution of the United States. It was so radical that the Attorney General threatened to take my seat away. I said, you can't do that. I was never voted in by you folks. It was the Hawaiian people who voted me in. Okay. It was a radical position, and I understood that. I would argue and argue and argue. Somebody wrote to me a letter, what we call an elder, a kupuna. Never met the guy before. And he says, Mr. Burgess, my slave name, Mr. Burgess, you got a problem. Your problem is that you believe that the ability to convert a person's mind is in your hands. Your kuleana, your area, your territory of responsibility is to put the argument forward and step back. Leave it alone. There's a sacredness of that period of time where people are quiet, they are thinking, they are asking questions. It's a God time. Learn to step back. Let the process take its own and stop trying to push it into your direction. I thought it was absolutely right. I share that, and it's up to you to accept what aspect of it that you might want to consider. Ma'am, you had your hand up earlier, and then we'll go back to.
Thank you for coming. I used to live in Hawaii for 4 years. I worked at St. Francis Lily Hospital.
Mm-hmm.
I was wondering, is there still a system set up where people who have Hawaiian ancestry, I believe it was 1/8 of the time, they can get access to land left by Bernice Puhai Bishop? Is that land trust still in effect? What's going on with that?
No, it's kind of mixed. I think the factual side that you have tried to express is not accurate. You have the bishop estate. The Bernice Pawahi bishop and her estate was dedicated to a school, Kamehameha schools.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. You had another instrument working there, and that was called the Hawaiian Homes Lands Program. There was a federal program that said that we shall give to Native Hawaiians of 50% of the blood quantum. Okay, leases of lands for 99 years. And then they have subsequently knocked that number down to, instead of 50%, it's 25% to inherit such lands, but you still need the 50% to obtain it. So those programs continue to operate. Yeah. Now, the bishop estate question of limiting the schools to only those of children of Hawaiian ancestry, the U.S. Supreme Court has faced a number of cases in which they are trying to break that agreement, saying that it's a racist agreement, although it was formed before the American takeover of Hawaii. So there's been a continuing litigation, and there's some settlements, but it's always there. And that's one of the reasons why people are saying we can't deal with this federal recognition, because then they will come in and they will destroy all of these programs. Or other people are saying that will preserve the programs, because if the American Indians can get away with the special recognition just for American Indians, let's protect it with the Hawaiians so that the bishop estate will not get destroyed.
Yeah, right.
So there's arguments there. Other people are saying, well, that's a sellout. Why should we accept what Americans say about our assets?
Yeah, right.
So you got
I
some
don't wanna
tough
listen to anything we
some
say.
tough problems. So I'm saying, okay, stop the arguing. Let's see if we can work together, support one another, and generally move towards our independence, even if we have to go through the roadway or through the avenue of federal recognition for now, but let's never forget the dream of independence. And that's why I say and rather than or.
Gotcha.
Yes. Yes, there was another
Thank you so
question.
much. I just want to put out what you said earlier that, yeah, I know you were involved with OHA. A lot of people here, not from the, who don't have a Hawaii, experience, may not realize that, yeah, that's been the thing where you have the federal courts, I guess, let's call them Hawaii, litigants who have, for instance, they successfully, argued that the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals ruled that OHA could not actually, the voting could not be, restricted only to Native Hawaiian people. Now, I will say I don't think that's had too much of an effect, because I know personally, when I lived in Hawaii and they said you can vote for OHA, I just said, first, I don't know any of these people. The second, it's not my concern. You know, so I actually, that's probably one of the few elections I've never voted in, because I always felt unprivileged I should be voting in it. But nevertheless, that was an example of where, well, I don't know, I'll point to you that, I think you're probably familiar with Kuhn's structure of scientific revolutions, which, I won't go into it, but except for the fact that what's relevant to it, political theorists think about it as an example of saying, new systems do not get adopted, new theories don't get adopted until the existing one is not only disproven, but is proven utterly untenable. That you can't add a fudge factor here, you can't change a theory here, you have to totally start over. And that's what scientific revolution is. It was the same idea that going from being a member of the United States of America to being an independent country is in itself a revolution, a political revolution of the mind. We're only adopting it because we're finding in California that we can't preserve our way of life within the United States Constitution. And I put to you that the Hawaiian people also are finding that the federal entities, including the federal courts, for however they're intending to do, are effectively making it impossible for Hawaiian people to live the way they like. When I say Hawaiian people, I do mean the people of Hawaii. I don't even mean Native Hawaiian people. I mean literally everybody who's there. Their way of life is threatened.
Let me make 2 points. The first is the expectation of the culture, and as a result, how the people are responding. That's the first point. And I'll expand on that. The second is, and you just touched on the second point. Now I've forgotten it. I'll get to it. First, the people of Hawaii adopted a constitution for the quote state of Hawaii, in which they provided an Office of Hawaiian Affairs. The people who adopted it were all the people of Hawaii, saying that we recognize a special nature of the injustice to the Native Hawaiians. And so we want to create a special office in which essentially only the Native Hawaiians can elect their delegates, can elect their trustees, and give them the right to run their own business. It's against the self-interest of the general population, but the general population supported that. So I think the lesson there is to have faith in the humanity of people if they can understand the truth of what has happened. So today, not only today, 20 years ago, people, when surveys were taken, about 80% of the people supported Hawaiian sovereignty. They're not sure exactly what it meant, but they know that something happened in history, that there was a great injustice and something has to be done. Exactly how you're going to roll it out, they were uncertain. But there's a general support there. And that came about only through the education process. You know? So that's the first point. The second point I've lost, so it's
My
not.
point was simply that because there's only no reason why there's a California independence movement is because of people who have decided that our way of life, our lifestyles, our beliefs, our values are not protected.
Okay.
Governments are instituted for the protection of our rights, right? When the government starts attacking those rights, it seems like it's time to get rid of that government and replace it.
Yes, there's many ways of replacing it. Revolution is an option. There's another option, and that is evolution. By taking over by, as Sun Tzu would say in the art of war, go into the enemy territory, phase yourself in. Look at Latvia, Estonia, Lithuania. It wasn't through armed revolution, but it was led by people who maintained that continuity of consciousness of who they were. And it wasn't something automatic. They had to continue to remind the people to build on that continuity of consciousness. And over a period of time, they looked around and they started counting and say, wait a minute, we are the majority. And so they simply declared themselves independent. One person, a friend of mine who has passed away since, he said, the quest is not to walk the straight path, but to learn to walk the crooked path straight. A lot of people ask me, how can you be an attorney in that American system and go along with and support the American system? I said, because I need that license to practice in all of the courts. Sam King tried to pull my license away because I refused to say that I was a US citizen. But I need to get into the court in order to explode the system from the inside with truth, with aloha, with understanding. So it's not only one way is the only way, not only by revolution, but also by coming in, supporting our teachers, supporting our health workers, supporting our professors, and getting people into the system and opening the system in that way as well. There's many different ways of skinning a cat, as they say.
You slightly misunderstood what I said. When I said revolutions, I'm talking about, I mean, again, back to Kuhn's book, he's talking about the process by which the Newtonian theory of, late 19th century, and that is about the ether and the idea whether or not light could travel through a vacuum and stuff like that. And this was all, and we were trying to explain that these were all created in order to try to preserve, basically, the triumph of Einstein's theory of relativity, which is what he means by revolution, is that it throws away all those other preconditions and starts over. Although actually, if you actually read Einstein, you'll see that there's actually no conflict between Einstein's theory of relativity and Newton's laws of motion. It's simply that you just have to take the velocity thing, that Einstein's thinking in terms of speed of light. But anyways, the point I'm trying to make here, he's just saying, what do you mean by revolution? He means a revolution of thought. And in the same way, or a new paradigm, maybe that's a better word, a paradigm shift. So that seems such a trendy word nowadays. But you know what I mean?
No, that's 20 years ago.
So by no means we about revolution when you were going to build barricades and start an army. But that changed, the viewpoints of 39 million Californians. And perhaps will remain in the United States. And I would suggest that I'm just learning that, it's much like we think about, I, for instance, am a strong advocate of California-Hawaii Union. Because I point out, for the simple reason that Hawaii depends on shipments of, particularly food, from California. It would be very hard to imagine California being independent without Hawaii becoming either independent or finding some other interesting situation where it would be now dependent on a foreign country. So, I'm interested. It's just, you talked about how it's the federal governmental system, which includes the federal judiciary, has progressively made it difficult for even Hawaiian people. Because you mentioned Aloha being a creation of the people of Hawaii, and it certainly has, and there's a consensus in Hawaii that the system of, whatever, I want to say preference is the wrong word, but the idea that, that there are separate, that Native Hawaiian people have particular political rights which are different than the general Hawaiian resident, is an example of how the system, it won't work. And because the federal courts come along and say, you can't do it. And then I will point out one little fun fact, at this point, 1/5 of all federal judges have now been appointed by Donald Trump. And goodness knows what these people with lifetime appointments and no qualifications for them, are going to do to our way of life, to what the values that we hold.
Mhm.
So I just suggest that that's something that by paradigm, by revolutions was a revolution of thought.
I need us to wrap this segment up, so we can wrap it up in the next 5 minutes.
Yes.
Some other things to do.
Yes, one more question and then I'll
Well,
wrap
you
up.
brought up a huge obstacle that needs, I think, to be overcome if we, if indigenous people in what is now the U.S. are to recuperate their sovereignty. Every sovereign nation has the right to determine who is in it, who are its nationals, who are its citizens. Every sovereign, that's a co-commitment of sovereignty, yeah? But in the U.S., the Bureau of Hawaiian Affairs, the Bureau of Indian Affairs, they impose this blood quantum system, okay, on the indigenous nations of the U.S. Yeah, they imposed the blood quantum system, which before that imposition, you had cases like, for example, the Seminoles, who naturalized many, many, many runaway slaves, including from the slaveholders of the Cherokee Nation, which is really, really close. And the Cherokees tried to sue to get back their slaves and said, no, these are now Seminole nationals. We have naturalized them into the Seminole Nation. You're not getting Seminoles back from Seminoles, not happening. See you later. So there's this obstacle. This is something that we run into constantly because there are disputes here in California. Like I say, it's a very, very complex situation.
I don't think it's complex. I think it's up to the people themselves to define who they are, and it's well established in the international community. It's just a matter of standing up.
This territory that you're standing on, there are 4 different bands that lay competing claims to it. 2 of which call themselves Tonga Gabrielino, one of which calls themselves, I met with 2 of them, one of which calls themselves Quiche Gabrielino, and the other, they says, well, we'll just call ourselves Gabrielino and let you guys do it up. 4 different bands claim this as their indigenous territory. Who has the standing to resolve this dispute and determine who are the national representatives of the people to whom this was indigenous territory? No one but other indigenous nations. They're the only ones that have that.
And that's why
we don't have that standing.
That's why I say they themselves need to get together and begin that conversation.
Yes.
And that's where it lies in conversing and talking about it.
Absolutely.
So in closing, let me thank you folks. Let me thank the audience. Let me thank the organizers for inviting me, giving me an opportunity in a new forum to explain the cause of Hawaiian sovereignty. I'd be more than happy to answer your questions. Contact me through my website or through my email address, and that's plaenui, Plaenui, at hawaiianperspective.org. Write to me, and I'd be more than happy to try to respond. Thank you again very much.
Thank you.